Russell Craig is in the house with us today. How in the world are you doing, sir?
Man, I'm doing wonderful. I appreciate y'all having me here.
Well, it's always an honor to have you and be able to share your story with people and let guys come into your world and see what's going on. So I just want to jump right into this thing because it's so exciting to have you here and be able to talk to you. Tell everybody out there, because I'm going to mess this word up, but tell me what retinitis pigmentosa is.
It's called Retinitis Pigmentosa, and it's a degenerative eye condition. What it does is it kind of attacks your visual fields. You start with getting what I call like blurry spots, like within your central vision. Eventually, you will develop night blindness, and you will lose your peripheral vision on top of that. Mine is so progressive at this point, or so advanced, that I have no peripheral vision. I can roll my eyes hard to the left or right, and I can kind of see like this finger, and that's about it. And that's not going to do you any good when you're on the road. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it typically affects people more when they're reaching middle age. So 40 and up is typically when they see the real declines. I actually have friends that have this disease. We call it RP for short because you know it's hard to pronounce.
Right.
I have friends that have this disease that are actually younger than me, and they can still drive. A couple of them say they don't drive at night because of the night blindness, but during the day, they can see. I know one of them in particular has like some additional mirrors, so it kind of helps with the blind spots that they have. But they're able to drive. I've ridden in the car with them. You know, they're safe. They're cool. But yeah, it typically doesn't even affect you until middle age. Sometimes it could be confused with like a macular degeneration because you know that's associated with age related vision loss. I didn't find out that I had RP until I was 16. I was actually diagnosed with an eye condition known as Lever's, and my mom took me to Chicago when I was 16 years old. Met with a doctor named Alan Chow, and he ran a whole bunch of tests on me. He had me stick my head in this like massive kaleidoscope looking thing and had lights shining all on me. And when I poked my head out, he was like, "Yeah, you got RP." And I went back to Dothan and saw a retina specialist after him, and he agreed with Dr. Chow that I had RP. So I actually lived the first 16 years of my life thinking I had something totally different. And you know, my mom took me. Man, we went everywhere. Boston, Baltimore with my whole family, Atlanta, and I think they wanted to take me to Miami one time, and we didn't wind up going. Of course, Birmingham, and Birmingham's a different story we'll get into in a little bit. But yeah, I've been all over the country trying to solve this eye disease.
So now to help us all understand, when you said you thought you had something different when you were younger, what was that?
So it's called Lever's, and I'll be honest with you, I don't know as much about it as I do RP, but the symptoms are not the same. And again, you know, I was so young when I had it. I could tell you I went to a different eye doctor, and they would do different things with me. You know, they'd have like the eye chart up there, have me read the eye chart, and they'd do this thing where they'd have like this toy and they'd be bringing it around here and trying to get me to follow it. And I'm not entirely sure what they did differently than the other doctors to think that I had something else. It was a strange feeling at 16 to hear you don't have that, you know, you have something different. And so then began the process of us researching, mainly my mom and my dad, of course, figuring out like, oh, what is RP? Now that you don't have Lever's, let's figure out what RP is. And I can definitely say that's a strange feeling, figuring out after 16 years you don't have what you thought you did.
Oh yeah, well, most definitely. Now, in that 16 years, and obviously thinking you had something else, how was childhood? What were the struggles there growing up?
So in my opinion, the biggest hurdle to overcome when you have a disability, specifically mine, when you have a vision impairment, I think the social aspect of childhood is the most difficult because you just want to fit in a sense. You want to make friends just like everybody else, and you want to do what everybody else is doing. You know, like for me, I really love sports, and I love outdoors, hunting and fishing, things like that. When I was real young, my parents took me to Birmingham to see an eye doctor, and he told my parents to tell me that they just needed to send me off somewhere, that I wasn't going to be able to accomplish much, and I'm assuming he meant for them to go home and try again or something. The way that he was spinning it was like I wasn't cutting it, and my mom always says that was the longest ride home of her life. It was about a 4-hour ride back to Dothan, but I'm sure it felt like 12 or longer. Nobody wants to hear something like that, and to hear a doctor say it. And that's what we were talking about is, that was just 20 something years ago that somebody thought like that. And so what my opinion is people probably still think like that. If you have a disability, you should just not even bother with it. Don't even bother raising your kid. Just send them somewhere else, let somebody else deal with it. And that's no way to be. That's the kind of thing that we dealt with when I was, I would say like infancy, like toddler, 3, 4, all that. Luckily, we did have some fantastic folks in our lives at that time. The AIDB Regional Center in Dothan was a godsend to my parents. They used to participate in all these I think they're called simulations. They don't do them anymore. They're a little bit outdated. But back then they would take people. They didn't have to be parents. They could just be people in the community, just whoever wanted to learn about blindness. And they would take them into the community and they would blindfold them, or they would give them these the glasses that had different lenses in them to make them see different, just to simulate what blindness was, right? And they would give them different things to do. So they would have, we're going to eat a meal under blindfold or under these crazy glasses, so you can see what it's like to be blind and have to eat a meal. Or we're going to go to the mall and we're going to give you all blindfolds. You have to walk around the mall completely blind. You're not going to have a cane, nothing. You're just going to have to feel your way out of the mall. And they would do things like that. And I remember at one point in time they were taking Braille classes once they got off work. I mean, they were really committed to figuring out what they could do to make my life easier and to see what I saw. I'm very thankful that they were so supportive, and they let me have a normal childhood. Like I said, I played sports, played basketball for a few years, church league, and I played 1 year of rec league football. And my parents didn't let me play a second year because the last game of the year, I got hurt. And my dad came out on the field and was like, "Hey, man, your mom is about to jump over that chain link fence. So if you're not that hurt, I suggest you get up before you get embarrassed." And I just got up and limped to the sideline. When I asked them to play next year, they were like, "No, it ain't it ain't happening."
Well, now, that's pretty awesome that you were out there participating in sports regardless of what was going on, and that was able to show other people that you can get out there, including your parents. You were willing to get out there and put that effort out. Now, you said earlier about in childhood, people started, acting a little different or maybe thinking that you couldn't overcome and become something. Obviously, this podcast, and we're going to get into it here in just a little bit, of what you have become and the things you've turned into, kind of get us out of that stage of the childhood and now into everyday life for you. Tell us some things that have changed from childhood to now that you feel more comfortable in your own skin, I guess to say is a good way to put it.
Yeah, so on a personal point of view, I would say the thing that's changed the most is my mindset. And I feel like that's really powerful for anybody. Your mindset can really dictate how other people see you. When I was younger, somewhat embarrassed of my disability, I guess you could say, or tried to hide it because I just wanted to be like everybody else. And so, yes, I did play sports and all that, and that was fine. But when I wasn't doing that and I had to go through school just like everybody else, I used my cane. I have a white mobility cane. I got that when I was 6. Probably needed it younger than that because I used to get hurt a lot. But anyways, I just hated using it. You know, I'd keep it stood up like this, like vertically, straight up and down, or that it may be horizontal. I'm not good with that stuff. Is it vertically or horizontal?
Vertical.
Vertical. Okay, I'd hold it vertical like a staff, like I'm parting the Red Sea.
I got you.
And I would do that everywhere I go, and that's not how you're supposed to use it. And I didn't want people to see it. I didn't want people to acknowledge me as different back then because I didn't have the ability to tell the kids or their parents or the teachers like, hey, I'm blind, but like that's not just me. Like I just can't see good. I'm still a human being, and I still laugh at SpongeBob and this and that. Like I couldn't do that back then. Now I can. You know, I don't think we're ever necessarily 100% comfortable with ourselves. At least I'm not. Like I'm always trying to do better and grow and speak better and everything like that. But I don't have any problem now telling a stranger like, hey, I'm Russell Craig and I'm legally blind. Sorry, I didn't see your hand there when I was shaking their hand or something like that. It just doesn't embarrass me like it used to. You know, even performing, I had people come up to me, and everybody always thinks I'm stoned because I have sunglasses on and I play at night, and they're like, man, are you stoned? And no, I'm blind. And they get embarrassed 9 out of 10 times. Honestly, 5 years ago, if they'd asked me that, I'd have just lied and said yeah, because I just didn't want people to be like, oh, he's a blind musician. You see where I'm coming from? Like I just didn't want that attached to me for some reason. I didn't want to be attached to my disability. And I don't think that that's the way to be. I think you should acknowledge it. It shouldn't be your whole personality, I guess, to say, like, I'm not Russell the blind guy. You know what I mean? But it is a part of who I am. And so I don't have a problem talking about it now. And if you ask me, like, what's changed from a day-to-day standpoint today versus childhood, I'd say that's the biggest thing. Is it's my mindset. I'm not ashamed of my disability anymore. I can tell everybody about it, specifics of any kind, and it just doesn't bother me like it used to.
Man, that's what I just absolutely love hearing that part of it, because that's so powerful for other people to be able to hear themselves that it's okay to embrace that disability. It's okay to use those words and say, well, yeah, I am Russell and I am blind, but it's also, it opens a lot of doors for you, because now you start thinking, okay, I know what my limitations are inside. Now let me go find out what else I can do. I know where my stopping point is for some things, but then it opens up a whole nother world, which you've opened up now, you know, in your life. So kind of playing off of that a little bit, are there any hobbies in your life that you enjoy doing? I know you've said a few things outdoors, so kind of tell us what your hobbies are.
So I still love fishing. That's probably the biggest recreational activity I try to do is fish. My dad taught me how to tie a hook recently. I just pushed him a little bit harder this last time, because he's shown me several times before. But this last time, about a year ago, I was like, man, I have to do it on my own, because I have to fish on my own, you know, just like everybody else.
Right.
And he used a piece of rope that he had on his boat. And he had me tie a knot with that, and that was practice, you know. And he's like, it's the same concept with a fishing line, and he's told me too, and he's not lying, you know. He's like, there's people that can see, including myself, that have the hardest time tying a knot, you know, on a line. So, you know, if you don't get it the first time, you just keep going. But I got the general concept now. I love fishing, any kind of fishing. I've gone fishing, you know, by boat, on land, doesn't matter. The only thing I haven't done is deep sea fish, because I'm a little apprehensive about getting motion sickness or not. I don't really get car sick, but I'm just kind of nervous. Like, I would hate to spend that money and go out there for 6 hours and be sick as a dog. But that's kind of like a dream of mine to go, you know, when snapper season hits, go get some of them hosses and see what that's like to, you know, reel in those kind of fish. I would say that's probably, because I wouldn't consider music a hobby. So I would say fishing is definitely what takes up the majority of my free time.
Right. Well, and that's pretty awesome as well, for people to be able to see and know things that they can do and get out. Just like you said, tying a knot, that's pretty special in itself, to be able to feel that and know what's going on. because Dad did explain it right. I mean, it is one of the toughest things, even with guys with great eyesight, to put a little tiny line and a little tiny hole and get it to all pull right and do everything right. So I just think that's amazing that one, that you're willing to get out there and try that, and then two, to show other people that it is possible. You just got to be willing to put the effort forward and try it. Now, tell us, I know you've explained some of the past and the things you've gone through and how childhood was and how your adulthood has started to develop. Is there anything along the path to where we are right now with Russell that you've made a mistake that you go, I wish I wouldn't have said that? Not necessarily like, oh, I feel bad that I said this to a person, but maybe a way that you do things or something you did that you go, gosh, I wish I'd have done it different. Is there something along these lines you would have done different?
Yeah, the biggest mistake that I made was fighting technology. When, like I said, my identity back then, I didn't want to be different. So if I had to sit in class and not take notes and just look like another student, that's what I was going to do because I didn't want to be different. So I had technology. I used what's called a CCTV. It's a closed circuit television. It basically, you put a piece of paper under it and it will magnify it. You can even reverse the, what's it called, the contrast. So you could do black background, white lettering, or you could do normal, white background, black lettering. It blows it up so you can read your notes or you can take your test. I used to use that. Well, when I was about 14 or 15 is when my vision kind of fell off a cliff. I couldn't use that anymore. And so as if that wasn't enough of me being different to have to use that while I was in class, now I can't even do that. So I'm literally sitting in class like a bum. I can't take notes. I can't do I have somebody take notes for me. Half the time I would fall asleep. I can't even lie to you, man, because there was nothing for me to do, and I wouldn't challenge myself. So as far as like the biggest mistake, that was it. I remember going to the regional center and working with the TVI there. She was trying to show me how to use the computer, how to use what's called a screen reader. It's like a voiceover on a computer or a phone, and it reads everything to you. And there's certain keys you push to make it do this and that to navigate documents and websites. And I just fought it for no reason really, other than I guess I was just a teenager and I didn't want to be there. I can't really justify it, but that's like in my memory forever that I just fought it. And it got so bad to where like my parents just didn't make me do it anymore because I wasn't taking it seriously. And so what happened was when I got out of high school, I didn't have any skills because I didn't really know how to use a computer at all. I tell people all the time I was a 19-year-old kid and I didn't even know what the internet was. I didn't know how to get on it, how to access it, where YouTube was, what YouTube or Facebook. Like I didn't know what any of that stuff was as a 19-year-old kid, in the mid 2000s or whatever, when everybody knew what that stuff was. And I started out in life as an adult later than I should have. All my friends were 2 and 3 years into college. Some had families, some had good paying jobs. And here I am still living with my parents with no skills and no prospects for work. All I was doing at the time was just playing guitar for money, like here and there, like not even consistently. That by far was the biggest mistake that I made, was not holding myself accountable and learning that technology to level the playing field, so to speak.
Well, I definitely think that's an important thing out there for people to be able to hear and understand, is those moments in time where you and I and everybody else mess up because we want to help them not make the same mistake and advance themselves a lot further along than you and I even have. Now, in that same, telling mistakes and telling things that go on, I want to kind of hear a different side of Russell. Can you tell us something funny that's going on that we would all just get a kick out of hearing that's happened to Russell?
Oh yeah. So anybody that knows me for any extended period of time knows sometimes I can get a little cocky and, say things that may or may not be true. I like to exaggerate. You know what I'm talking about.
Right.
So,
like an Alabama fan, they'd say that.
Well. So, I was at Central Alabama Community College on the main campus, and I was working with the ADA coordinator there at the time. Her name's Tiffany. Go figure. Mm-hmm. Not this Tiffany, different Tiffany. So I'm working with her, and she's getting me oriented to a different part of the campus. At that time, I had classes that was basically just in one building, so I didn't didn't care about the other buildings, so to speak, you know.
Right.
Well, things changed, so she was helping me get oriented to the whole campus. We walked the whole campus, and I was telling her as we were walking, and even when we got back to the office, you know, I was bragging on myself. I was like, "Oh, I don't fall. I don't fall at all. I never fall. I haven't taken a fall in, 5-10 years. I use my cane. You know, I'm not ashamed of my disability anymore. I use my cane. I never fall, even when it's wet." Well, one day I was walking with her a couple of months after that, and it had rained a lot. And I was walking down these really shallow steps, the ones where you barely even have to step on them. They're so shallow. And I fell so hard. I couldn't. A lot of times when I fall, Jim, I'm so tall, like it's like in slow motion when I fall. Like I know it's happening for what feels like a minute. And it's like, no. Well, it wasn't like that this time, man. It was like I was walking, I was talking, and the next thing I know, I am seated on my butt on these soaking wet steps in my clothes. And I'm in front of the person that I was like, I don't fall, and and I didn't even sit there. I didn't even sit there and wallow in it. I fell, and I just stood up, and I was like, well, you got me, That was by far one of the funniest things I think I've done.
Well, and I think that's a lot of times important for people to hear, that there are humbling moments. With disabilities, you are going to run into things that other people wouldn't, and you just got to kind of learn to shove them off a little bit, and know that those things are going to happen. Not feel embarrassed, like you said. Don't just sit around and go, "Oh gosh,
I asked for that."
Yeah.
I mean, if you can't laugh at yourself,
there you go. That's exactly what we got to understand now. Tell me, I know we've covered a lot of little bases so far, but I think a really important piece that a lot of people love to hear out there. Tell us all how, all the way coming through this whole thing, even into where we are right now, adult Russell, how have our parents been in your life? What kind of help were they? What kind of focus were they? What were some of the things they helped you day to day?
Man, I know I touched on it earlier, but my parents were just such a difference maker in my life, because I just know that there's other parents out there. I feel like in my personal experience, I'm not saying anything about people I don't know, but in my personal experience, I just feel like my parents went above and beyond what they could have done. Even if I hadn't had a disability, like they were just super active parents, and they went to their kids' ball games and recitals and programs and graduations. They were just really involved and wanted to be involved. Like they were happy to be there. They didn't come sit in the back and put their hand on their chin the whole time. You know what I mean? And like, I think all kids need that. But in my case, as far as, like I said earlier, they wanted to learn about my disability. They were hungry for knowledge. They wanted to be in my shoes so bad, because all they wanted was for me to be successful. They didn't want to know what I saw so they could treat me different. They wanted to know what I saw so that they could show me how to do what everybody else was doing. And that wasn't just when I was little and they were doing all those classes with, AIDB and different things. That was all the way through my stubborn teenage years. And even like still today, like they still ask me questions, and, they still want to learn. And now that I'm in a position where I'm working and I work with people with vision impairments and other disabilities, like they ask me questions about them. Like they've never stopped being students, I guess you could say, and just taking an active, role in rooting for my success. And I'm just like super proud that they are my parents, and they did that for, me and my sister.
Well, that's pretty special to be able to have some folks like that stay with you each and every moment through, like you said, the tough times and the fun times. They've all been there and enjoyed every bit of it. And it's pretty special also in somebody's life to even have a person, parent, friend, anybody that's willing to stick by your side, because to a person with a disability, it means a ton. It's almost like having that extra arm you got out there that you can always count on them as you go through life. So wrapping all that into one, now really get us to where we are today. I know Russell is a singer, and Russell travels all over playing gigs everywhere. Tell everybody out there listening what it is you do right now, what kind of things you're into, places you play. Just give us the overall journey.
So right now I wear a lot of hats. I graduated last year from Auburn University. I got a bachelor's in rehab and disability studies. While I was in my last semester of college, I interned at AIDB in Talladega at their campus that's called E.H. Gentry, and I got to work in the blind services department. So I worked it out with the director at the time, and he wanted me to be a jack of all trades. I went in there with the mindset of what I wanted to do when I graduated, and he stopped me in my tracks and said, "No, you're not going to come here." He was basically like, "You're not going to come here and tell me what you're going to do. This is what you're going to do if you come here." He put me in everybody's class or office and made me learn all the jobs while I was interning. And once I graduated, a position opened up, and I got fortunate to get an interview, and I went and I did the interview. I felt really good about it, and they offered me the job. So right now, I'm the outreach vocational evaluator at E.H. Gentry. All the prospective students that come in that have vision impairments, what I do is I evaluate them. We have what's called we have academic tests, aptitude tests, which are kind of like IQ tests. We have hand skills tests. We just have a full battery of tests that we give them where we try to see where their weaknesses may be and where their strengths are. And at the end of it, we write a report, we detail everything, and we make recommendations. So this is Joe Blow, and he did this, and he did this, and I think he would benefit from a program here, learning how to do X, Y, Z. And I absolutely love my job, and I think it was written just for me. I just feel like it's the perfect thing for me to be able to do. I'm not bragging by any means because this is no brag, but I just feel like I'm there and I'm making a difference, and it's palpable, and it makes me so happy that I'm able to sit there as a person with a vision impairment in front of other people that when they come in, I felt those same emotions because I was actually at this place as a student at one time. A lot of times they come in, they may be scared, they maybe haven't been alone before with their disability. Maybe they're not scared. Maybe they're angry. Maybe they're confused. Maybe they just plain don't want to be there. And I get to sit there in front of them and go, I've been exactly where you've been, and now I'm here. And if I can do it, you can do it, and you can even do more than me. And you can just tell that, a lot of them respond to it. And it just makes me feel so good. On top of doing that, I would consider myself a full-time musician because I have been playing every weekend for the past 16 weeks. I have a website. We can touch on it later, but it's called russellcraigsounds.com. I do all my booking, all my promoting. It's a full-time job in itself, but I have to take that full-time job and manage it all at night because, my 9 to 5, like I said, is AIDB. And I do it, and I love it. And every weekend I go and I play. And like I said, I'm not ashamed of my disability anymore. So when I get off stage, I get to talk to people, let them know I can't see. And they all, they respect it when you tell them like that. There's nothing to worry about when you handle it like that. And they're real appreciative. A lot of times, you meet people with disabilities when you get to play music. And a lot of times you'll meet parents that have kids with disabilities and they go, "Wow, and you're a musician?" And "Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir. And I've been doing this for 10 years. And yeah, I get paid like it's a real job. And, you see how much fun I'm having." And so for me, it's like living out two dreams. I got a great job, 9 to 5, and then I get to go play music on the weekends. I get to write music. I get to record my own music. I mean, it's the best of both worlds right now.
That is unbelievable to know where you started from to where you're also going right now. And then give us a little glimpse into the future. What is Russell's plans coming up?
Well, it's so different than the past because, 5-6 years ago, probably 6 years ago now, I thought that I was a rock star, and it was the furthest thing from a rock star at the time. But, you feel bulletproof when you're younger. So I was like, I don't even need to work. I'm going to be a rock star. And I went and I would do all these competitions and this and that, and just, picking up a gig here and there and thinking, oh, if I go play at, Bob's Burgers and Beers, I'm going to be, a record producer's going to come in there and sign me. And good luck with that. I'm not saying it's out of the question because I'm still pursuing that. And that's why you say going back to the future, my plans are to continue through work and through music. I want to make a difference in the lives of people with disabilities, even beyond vision impairments. I want to reach everybody with a disability. And I just enjoy getting to do podcasts like these and interviews and different things because I get to, tell people what I've gone through, and I get to talk about my family and my mindset today. And I'm hoping that in the future I will have ample opportunities to do this. I know later this year I'm going to be recording a new album. We've already got 3 of the songs ready to go. That's going to be a lot of fun getting to go promote that. And that's just going to give me more opportunities to tell my story and to, bring more awareness to people with disabilities. That's just the beauty of where I'm at right now. No matter whether I'm at AIDB or whether I'm Russell Craig Sounds, like I'm getting to make a difference in the community.
Folks, if that don't fire you up, I don't know what will. A guy that's been through everything he's been through, and he's still out there trying to help people along his journey. Even though he's trying to make his way into doing things, he's also trying to reach down and help other people on their way up. So I just think that's a pretty awesome man that we're talking to, and a pretty awesome situation for people to be able to look at and see a great example of what you should be and what you should be striving for. If people are out there looking for you, Russell, and I know you said you had a website, so say that one more time so everybody knows that.
Yeah, so my website is russellcraigsounds.com, and of course I'm on social media, Facebook, Instagram is Russell Craig Sounds. You can look me up on YouTube. If you type in Russell Craig Sounds on YouTube, the first thing that's going to come up is my music video for Call Me the Rain that I did a few years ago. I've got a YouTube channel you could subscribe to. And of course, all my music is on all the music stores that Apple Music, Spotify, Google Play. That's just under Russell Craig. Of course, if you wanted to, you could always go purchase an album or a CD on iTunes or Amazon Music. It's just under Russell Craig.
Now, also, I know most all musicians have some mercs out there. Tell us, can we get a T-shirt, a hat? I know some now. Some of the things the ladies want, I can't mention, but can we get the normal stuff? T-shirts, hats, stuff like that.
Oh, absolutely. On the website, I've got shirts, short sleeve, long sleeve. I've got hats. I've got koozies. I've got real CDs. If people still ride around with CD players, I got to hook up on those.
There you go.
I need you guys to let me know you want some shirts because I've got some really neat ideas for some new designs, and I got to get rid of the ones I got. So come holler at me, and I will hook you up.
Well, that's most definitely what we need to get out there and do, guys, is be able to support him and what he's doing. As you've heard, he's trying to get out there and help people. So let's help him further his career. Now, here's the other thing I want to cover, too, before we wrap this thing up, is if I'm out there trying to find somebody to come play my, as you said, burger joint, my birthday party, my whatever the event is, and I want to hire you, how do I do that?
So there's 2 ways you can do it. On my website, which again, russellcraigsounds.com, there's actually a link on the website that says Book Russell. You can fill that form out. The form is all the questions I'm going to ask you. So really, you're going to save time by doing this because it's all the questions I'm going to ask you before we do the deal. You submit that. It's going to go straight to my email. I'm going to have your name and your contact info, and we can go from there. If you don't want to do that, you can always email me. My email is russellcraigsounds, SOUNDS, @gmail.com. Of course, I can't even hide it anymore. My number's like all on social media. So if you go follow me and all my numbers out there, you're more than welcome to send me a text or give me a call.
All right. Now, this is how we're going to wrap this thing up. This is our signature question that we love using for every single podcast because I love to hear how people respond to this. When your day is done and the good Lord up above calls your number, and we read the book of life of Russell when it's all over with, what do you hope people are reading in that book that Russell's accomplished through the chapters of his life?
Well, I hope that people read about a guy that was able to learn from his mistakes and didn't make the same ones over and over again. And I hope they read about a guy that didn't sit there and dwell in his accomplishments, but he was more impressed that other people were accomplishing things, and he was hopeful that he was able to make a difference in their lives, because that's what I care more about, is that I'm doing that, not necessarily I'm climbing some sort of mountain. I want to help other people climb that mountain.
Folks, I don't know if it gets said any better than that somebody out here is willing to try to help you climb the mountain. They're not trying to climb it by themselves. They want to help you up. So I most definitely want you to get out there and support Russell. Get out there and figure out a way to book him, to just get him in your life, because you can obviously hear that he's got a great passion for helping others. And he's also told us today, if you've got a disability, don't let that be something you frown on. Use it as an advantage. Get out there and say, yes, I got this going on, but this is what makes me different and makes me special above everybody else. So let's wrap this thing up, Russell. Tell us one more time before we close this thing out. Give us the website and how to get a hold of Russell.
RussellCraigSounds.com. Russell Craig Sounds on all social media. You can look up Russell Craig on all your music stores. I know y'all got a Spotify playlist. You can go ahead and add Call Me the Rain to it, and I'd be super appreciative. And Jim, I appreciate you having me on, man. It's always a pleasure sitting and talking to you.
Oh, man, it's just an absolute blessing to be in the same room with you, because a guy like you that's got the motivation to get out there and do what you're doing, I've enjoyed the few times we've had to spend together doing a little bit of fishing and seeing you really beat up on me and catch all the fish. So it's just amazing to have the time to be able to spend with a guy like you. So thank you very much for coming on today.
Yes, sir. Thank you.